In every corner of modern society, we find ourselves locked in battles of identity, ideology, and belief. Black versus white, Christian versus Muslim, Democrat versus Republican, vegan versus carnivore. These dualities form the invisible architecture of public discourse and private identity. Whether it's political debate, cultural allegiance, or lifestyle choice, much of human behavior is shaped by an underlying desire to divide the world into simple categories: good versus evil, us versus them, right versus wrong. But why? What is the common thread that connects these seemingly unrelated dichotomies? The answer lies deep in human psychology, biology, and culture. At its core, our tendency to split the world into binary oppositions stems from an evolutionary need for survival, belonging, and meaning. Conflict, it seems, is not just something humans experience, it is something we create, often unconsciously, in order to make sense of the world and our place in it. The roots of division, simplifying a complex world. Human beings are pattern-seeking creatures. Our brains are wired to find meaning in the chaos of existence, and one of the fastest ways to do this is through categorization. Binary thinking, dividing concepts into two opposing sides, allows us to reduce the complexity of reality into something we can understand and act upon. It's cognitively efficient. If someone or something fits into the bad box, we know to avoid or oppose it. If it fits into the good box, we support or identify with it. From an evolutionary standpoint, this kind of thinking had a survival benefit. Early humans lived in tight-knit tribes where recognizing who was a friend or a foe could mean the difference between life and death. In this context, tribalism wasn't ideological, it was practical. The more loyal you were to your tribe and wary of outsiders, the better your chances of surviving. That ancient instinct persists today, but now it manifests in more abstract ways: political parties, religions, brands, diets, and social movements. At the heart of this binary tendency lies a deep psychological need, the need for identity. People derive a sense of self not just from who they are, but from who they are not. Defining ourselves in contrast to others helps reinforce group cohesion. Whether it's we're the working class, they're the elites, or we're vaccinated, they're anti-science, these divisions function like emotional scaffolding for our beliefs. This psychological mechanism is also known as social identity theory, which suggests that people boost their self-esteem by identifying with groups in groups and devaluing other groups out groups. The more clearly defined the enemy is, the more secure one feels in their own position. That's why public discourse often becomes more polarized in times of fear, uncertainty, or social upheaval. People seek certainty, and binary thinking provides that. Moral dualism, the good versus evil trap. Religions, myths, and stories have long leaned into moral dualism, the idea that the world is fundamentally a struggle between good and evil. This isn't limited to Christianity, Zoroastrianism, Islam, Hinduism, and many indigenous belief systems also carry the theme. The appeal of dualism lies in its clarity. It offers a framework in which suffering, injustice, or chaos can be explained as the result of evil forces. But this worldview has a dangerous side. When people internalize the belief that their side is morally righteous, it becomes easier to dehumanize the other side. Opponents become not just wrong but evil, not just misinformed but dangerous. This leads to polarization, intolerance, and even violence. Once someone is perceived as the enemy, any form of attack, verbal, legal, even physical, can be justified in the name of good. Modern applications of ancient instincts. Today, these ancient psychological tendencies are weaponized by technology, media, and politics. The internet, especially social media, thrives on conflict. Algorithms are designed to maximize engagement, and nothing drives engagement like outrage. News outlets frame stories in terms of conflict because that's what captures attention. Politicians exploit fear of the other to galvanize support and consolidate power. We see these divides everywhere. Conservative versus liberal, ideological tribes shaped by identity, not just policy. Vaxxer versus anti-vaxxer, a battle between trust in institutions and skepticism. urban versus rural, a cultural and economic divide that goes deeper than geography. Religious versus secular, a clash between worldviews, each claiming moral authority. Even lifestyle choices have become battlegrounds: vegan versus carnivore, minimalist versus consumerist, natural health versus pharmaceutical. What once were personal preferences have turned into moral positions. In a world of increasing complexity and uncertainty, people cling to these binaries as lifelines, tools to organize their values and defend their identity. The illusion of duality. But these binaries are not just oversimplified, they're often false dichotomies. Life rarely fits neatly into either or categories. Most people fall on spectrums rather than at extremes. The reality is messy, nuanced, and fluid. Many so-called opponents actually share common concerns but are divided by language, symbols, or misinformation. Recognizing this can be liberating. Once we understand that these conflicts are often manufactured or exaggerated, we can begin to move beyond them. It doesn't mean erasing differences, but rather acknowledging complexity and refusing to reduce others to caricatures. Transcending the divide. The first step to transcending this binary way of thinking is awareness. When we notice ourselves slipping into us versus them patterns, we can pause and ask, who benefits from this division? What am I afraid of? What nuance am I missing? The second step is empathy, not agreement, but understanding. When we stop assuming that our opponents are evil and start asking what drives them, we create space for dialogue and cooperation. Finally, we need new stories that move beyond conflict into integration. Stories that recognize the interconnectedness of all people and the shared challenges we face: climate change, inequality, loneliness, and meaninglessness. These are not liberal or conservative issues, they are human issues. Conclusion: conflict is deeply embedded in the human condition, but it doesn't have to define us. Our tendency to divide the world into binaries, black versus white, good versus evil, us versus them, is a psychological shortcut born of fear and evolved for survival. But in the modern world, these divisions often do more harm than good. By recognizing our instinct toward dualism, we can begin to outgrow it, embracing complexity, nuance, and ultimately one another. Only then can we start to write a new story, one not of endless conflict, but of connection.